The Galactic Council had never paid much attention to Earth. Humans were regarded as primitive beings, barely able to reach their own moon. When Admiral Krell ordered the invasion of Earth in the Terran year 2087, it was expected to be a simple operation. The Vordak Empire had conquered over 300 species, many far more advanced than humans. Jack Miller was just a mechanic when the invasion began. He had been working at his garage in rural Montana when the sky turned crimson and massive ships descended through the atmosphere. The television broadcasts showed major cities falling within hours. Earth's militaries, despite their best efforts, were outmatched by Vordak technology. "We need to get to the bunker," Jack told his apprentice Mike as they watched the news. "My grandfather built it during the Cold War. It should keep us safe at least for a while." The bunker was well stocked with food, water, and Jack's extensive collection of tools. An old ham radio allowed them to monitor communications from across the country. The reports were grim. Humanity was being systematically rounded up for processing. The Vordak needed laborers for their mining operations in the SETI Alpha system. 3 days later, their hiding place was discovered. A patrol of 4 Vordak soldiers, each standing 7 feet tall with gleaming exoskeletons, broke through the bunker door. "Surrender, humans," the lead soldier commanded through a translator. "Resistance is futile." Jack raised his hands, but his eyes darted to his toolbox. "Can I bring my tools? I'm a mechanic. I could be useful." The Vordak laughed, a harsh metallic sound. "Primitive implements, useless against our technology." "Just a basic toolkit," Jack insisted. "For my own comfort." The soldier scanned the tools with a handheld device and shrugged. "No weapons detected, permission granted." As they were marched to the transport ship, Mike whispered, "What good are wrenches and screwdrivers against their weapons?" Jack smiled thinly. "There's more to a basic toolkit than meets the eye." Aboard the massive Vordak carrier, humans were sorted according to physical capabilities. Jack and Mike were assigned to maintenance duty due to their mechanical skills. The aliens considered human technology laughably primitive, but humans could be trained to perform simple repairs on their vessels. During orientation, Captain Draz, their Vordak supervisor, explained their duties. "You will maintain the waste reclamation system. It is simple work, even for your kind." Jack nodded humbly, clutching his toolkit. "We'll do our best, sir." That night, in the cramped quarters assigned to human workers, Jack opened his toolkit while the others slept. Inside were ordinary tools: wrenches, pliers, screwdrivers, a multimeter. But Jack's trained eye saw possibilities where the Vordak saw primitivity. He began examining the alien technology during his shifts, memorizing systems, understanding connections. "The Vordak have overlooked something fundamental," he whispered to Mike one night. "Their technology is advanced, yes, but it follows principles. Engineering is engineering, no matter the planet of origin." Jack understood what the aliens didn't. In the hands of someone who truly understood the nature of tools, a basic toolkit could become something far more dangerous than any weapon. After 2 weeks aboard the carrier, Jack had mapped most of the waste reclamation system. The Vordak technology was impressive, but its fundamentals weren't unlike systems he'd worked on back on Earth. Pipes were still pipes. Valves were still valves. Pressure was still pressure. "Tonight," Jack whispered to Mike during their meal break, "I'm going to access the central control node." Mike nearly choked on his food. "That's suicide. The area is restricted. I've been watching the guard rotations. There's a 3-minute window when the corridor is clear." That night, Jack slipped out during the guard rotation gap. His toolkit hung from his belt, the familiar weight comforting as he navigated the dimly lit service tunnels. The central node was exactly where he'd calculated it would be, humming with energy. Jack studied the alien interface, then carefully removed a panel with his screwdriver. Inside was a maze of circuitry that glowed with an eerie blue light. He took out his multimeter, modified with parts scavenged from broken Vordak technology, and began testing connections. "Fascinating," he muttered. "They use quantum entanglement for their communications network, but the physical infrastructure is vulnerable to the same issues as any system." A noise in the corridor sent Jack scrambling to replace the panel. He barely made it back to his quarters before the next guard patrol. "Did you learn anything?" Mike asked. Jack nodded, eyes gleaming. "Their systems are centralized. One node controls multiple functions, and they have no cybersecurity against physical intrusion. They never expected anyone to access the hardware directly." The next day, Jack began collecting human workers with specialized backgrounds. Tom had been an electrician. Lisa was a software engineer. Ben had worked in plumbing. Each possessed knowledge that, while primitive by Vordak standards, represented thousands of years of human problem-solving. "We understand how things break," Jack explained to his growing circle. "That's our advantage. The Vordak see technology as almost magical. They use it but don't truly understand its vulnerabilities," Lisa agreed. "I've been watching them troubleshoot system errors. They follow protocols without understanding the underlying principles." Jack's plan was audacious, using his basic toolkit, enhanced. With scavenged alien components, they would target critical systems throughout the ship, not to destroy them, but to control them. "We don't have the numbers or weapons to take the ship by force," Jack explained. "But we can make it ours, system by system, using nothing more than understanding in these basic tools." Captain Draz had begun to notice Jack's efficiency. "Human Miller, your work exceeds expectations. Perhaps your species has potential after all." Jack kept his expression neutral. "Thank you, sir. I simply enjoy understanding how things work." Draz gestured to Jack's toolkit. "With such primitive implements, your abilities are unexpected." "Just a basic toolkit, sir," Jack replied. "Nothing special." But as Draz walked away, Jack exchanged knowing glances with Mike. The Vordak's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating humanity's weapons or technology. It was underestimating the power of human ingenuity, armed with nothing more than a basic toolkit and determination. 1 month into the voyage to the SETI Alpha system, Jack's network had grown to 37 humans, each working in different sections of the massive carrier. They communicated through a rudimentary system Jack had devised using the ship's power, fluctuations as Morse code, undetectable to the Vordak monitoring systems. During his inspection of the environmental control system, Jack made a critical discovery. "They're transporting something alive," he told the others during their secret meeting in the maintenance shaft. "Something they're keeping in stasis." Lisa had accessed the ship's data cores during her cleaning duties. "According to the manifests, I found they're biological weapons, engineered parasites designed to control host bodies." The implications chilled everyone. Earth wasn't just being invaded for labor, it was being prepared for something far worse. Jack stared at his worn toolkit. "We need to accelerate our plan." That night, Jack made his most daring move yet. Using a service tunnel he'd discovered, he reached the ship's engine section. The massive warp drive pulsed with energy that made his hair stand on end. The Vordak engineers never imagined a primitive human could understand their propulsion systems, but Jack had been studying the principles for weeks. With trembling hands, he removed a panel and used his modified multimeter to locate the drive's regulation circuits. With a careful adjustment of his insulated pliers, he created a bypass that would allow Lisa to access the engine controls remotely. "What are you doing, human?" The voice behind him sent ice through his veins. Jack turned, slowly to face Engineer Mox, the Vordak supervisor of the engine section. The alien's exoskeleton gleamed in the blue light of the engine core. Jack held up his screwdriver innocently. "Routine maintenance, sir. I was told to check for loose connections." Mox's compound eyes narrowed. "This area is restricted to authorized personnel only. I apologize, sir. The work order must have been mistaken." Jack gestured to his toolkit. "I'm just following orders with my basic tools." Mox stepped closer, examining Jack's work. "These connections appear altered." Jack's heart pounded. Discovery now would doom not just him, but all of humanity. Then he noticed something, a slight irregularity in Mox's exoskeleton joint, near what would be a shoulder in humans. "Sir, your exoskeleton appears damaged," Jack said, pointing to the joint. "May I?" Confused, Mox allowed Jack to approach. With one swift movement, Jack inserted his specially modified screwdriver into the joint and twisted. A surge of electricity, generated by components he'd salvaged from damaged equipment, coursed through the tool and into Mox's exoskeleton control system. The alien froze, his systems temporarily paralyzed. Jack quickly bound him with cable ties and dragged him into a maintenance closet. "This is Jack," he whispered into his makeshift communicator. "Phase 1 complete, but we've been compromised. Initiate Phase 2 immediately." Across the ship, humans began implementing their coordinated sabotage. Tom disabled the internal security sensors. Lisa initiated a feedback loop in the communication systems. Ben reversed the pressure in key hydraulic systems that controlled the detention level doors. Alarms blared throughout the ship as the Vordak realized something was wrong. But by then, Jack's team had control of critical systems, and it had all been accomplished with nothing more sophisticated than a basic toolkit in the hands of determined humans who understood the fundamental principles of how things worked. "All sections report," Jack commanded through the ship's communication system, now under Lisa's control. The responses confirmed what they had hoped. Humans throughout the vessel were rising up, armed with tools and knowledge. The Vordak, for all their advanced technology, had never faced an insurrection from within their own systems. Captain Draz's voice cut through the chaos, broadcasting ship-wide. "This futile rebellion will be crushed. Humans lack the capability to understand our technology, let alone control it." Jack smiled grimly as he adjusted his makeshift control panel, once a simple maintenance terminal, now modified with his toolkit to access ship-wide systems. "That's where you're wrong, Captain. We don't need to understand everything about your technology. We just need to understand principles." In the command center, Captain Draz watched in disbelief as system after system fell under human control. "How is this possible? They have no weapons." His second-in-command frantically worked at a console. "They're using our own systems against us. Environmental controls, door mechanisms, communication networks, all compromised." Draz slammed his fist down. "Lock down all critical systems. Initiate emergency protocols." "Too late," the officer replied. "The humans have isolated our command functions." Meanwhile, Jack led a team toward the detention center where thousands of humans were held. Using his modified tools, he bypassed the security locks and swung the massive doors open. The imprisoned humans stared in disbelief at their rescuers. "We don't have much time," Jack announced. "Everyone with technical skills follow Mike. He'll assign you to teams. Everyone else follow Lisa to the secure areas we've established." Young woman stepped forward. "They have weapons. We have screwdrivers. How can we possibly win?" Jack held up his toolkit. "These aren't just tools. They're the culmination of human problem-solving. The Vordak rely on technology they don't fully understand. We understand the fundamentals of how things work, how they break, and how to fix them, or break them intentionally." The rebellion spread throughout the ship like wildfire. Humans who had been selected for their technical abilities now turned those skills against their captors. Electricians short-circuited weapon systems. Plumbers redirected cooling systems to overheat critical components. Software engineers like Lisa created cascading failures in the ship's AI. Captain Draz ordered his troops to the engine section, the last system still under Vordak control. He found Jack there, calmly adjusting the warp drive with nothing more than a wrench and his modified multimeter. "Step away from the engine," Draz commanded, weapon raised. Jack turned slowly. "You know, Captain, there's something beautiful about tools. They're extensions of our understanding. Your people see technology as something to be used. We see it as something to be understood. Your primitive understanding is nothing compared to our advanced science," Draz sneered. "Science without understanding is just following instructions," Jack replied. "Hand me that plasma cutter, Mike." Mike tossed him the tool, once a simple cutting torch, now modified to interface with Vordak technology. Jack made one final adjustment to the engine system. "What have you done?" Draz demanded. "I've rerouted the warp field to create a stable bubble around the ship. We're now effectively in our own pocket of space-time. You can't call for help, and your reinforcements can't reach us." Draz's compound eyes widened. Impossible. Such calculations would require years of experience understanding how systems interact? Exactly. Jack held up his worn toolkit. Never underestimate what humans can accomplish with nothing more than basic tools and the knowledge of how to use them. 3 days after the takeover, Jack stood on the bridge of the Vordak carrier, now under complete human control. The view screen showed Earth growing larger as they approached their home planet. The Vordak crew, now prisoners in their own detention cells, had been stunned by how quickly their technology had been mastered by the supposedly primitive humans. "We're being hailed by the Vordak fleet in Earth orbit," Lisa announced from the communication station she had reconfigured with parts from her sewing kit and a modified curling iron. Jack nodded. "Put them through." The imposing figure of Fleet, Commander Thorne, appeared on screen. His expression shifted from confusion to anger when he saw humans operating his ship. "What is the meaning of this? Where is Captain Draz?" "Captain Draz is currently unavailable," Jack replied calmly. "I'm Jack Miller, representing the humans aboard this vessel." Thorne's voice boomed through the speakers. "Return control of the ship immediately or face destruction." "I'm afraid we can't do that," Jack said. "And before you consider firing on us, you should know we've modified this ship's defense systems. We're now carrying an unstable warp bubble that, if disrupted, would create a cascading reaction through your entire fleet." This was a bluff. They had stabilized the warp bubble. Not destabilized it, but the Vordak couldn't know that. Thorne's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Humans don't possess the knowledge to manipulate warp technology." Jack held up his toolkit. "You'd be surprised what humans can do with the right tools and understanding." While Jack kept the fleet commander distracted, Tom and his team of former electricians were broadcasting a signal to Earth. Using components salvaged from Vordak communication arrays and modified with simple tools, they had created a transmission that could penetrate the Vordak jamming systems. The message was simple: detailed instructions on how to identify and exploit weaknesses in Vordak technology, along with the locations of key vulnerabilities in their ships. All exploitable with nothing more sophisticated than basic household and workshop tools. "Commander," an officer interrupted Thorne on the view screen. "We're detecting unauthorized transmissions to the planet's surface." Thorne's face contorted with rage. "Stop them," Jack smiled. "Too late. The message has been received. Across Earth, humans are learning what we've learned: that your technology can be understood, controlled, and defeated using nothing more than human ingenuity and basic tools." Tom confirmed this with a nod to Jack. "Reports coming in from across the planet. Resistance cells are successfully applying our methods. Vordak ground troops are losing control of their equipment." The revelation that had started with Jack's toolkit was spreading globally. Plumbers were disabling Vordak water purification systems. Electricians were shorting out their power grids. Auto mechanics were immobilizing their ground transports. Each human using their specialized knowledge of fundamental principles, armed with nothing more than basic tools. "You underestimated us," Jack told the stunned commander. "You saw our technology and assumed we were primitive. But technology isn't just about having advanced gadgets. It's about understanding how things work at a fundamental level." On the view screen, alarms began, blaring on Thorne's bridge. Officers rushed around in panic. "Commander, our systems are failing across the fleet. Humans are somehow accessing our control networks." Jack turned to Lisa. "Status of the biological weapons?" "Contained and neutralized," she reported. "We've modified their stasis fields to render them inert." Jack faced the increasingly desperate Vordak commander. "Here are our terms. The Vordak Empire will withdraw from Earth space immediately. All human prisoners will be released, and you will acknowledge Earth as sovereign territory, off limits to future incursions." "Or what?" Thorne snarled. "Or we continue, demonstrating how dangerous humans can be with nothing more than basic tools and the knowledge to use them." 1 year after what came to be known as the Toolkit Revolution, Earth had changed dramatically. Humanity had not only repelled the Vordak invasion but had begun incorporating salvaged alien technology into their own civilization. Unlike the Vordak, however, Humans focused on understanding the principles behind the technology rather than simply using it. Jack had become the reluctant face of humanity's new technological renaissance. Today he stood before the newly formed Earth Defense Council, his trusty toolkit still hanging from his belt despite the formal setting. The Vordak underestimated us because they had forgotten something essential, Jack explained to the assembled representatives. In their rush to advance their technology, they lost touch with the fundamental principles. Their engineers became operators rather than innovators. The council chamber housed delegates from every nation, unified by the invasion, in a way nothing before had achieved. Admiral Reynolds, head of the newly formed Earth fleet, leaned forward. "And you believe this is why we were able to defeat them? Because we understand basic principles?" Jack nodded. The Vordak grew dependent on technology they didn't fully comprehend. When things broke, they followed protocols. When we broke their systems in unexpected ways, they had no framework for addressing the problems. He opened his toolkit, still containing many of the same basic tools, though now enhanced with Vordak components, and held up a simple wrench. This is humanity's greatest weapon, not because of what it is, but because of what it represents: our ability to understand, adapt, and overcome. The Vordak saw tools as mere implements. We see them as extensions of human ingenuity. Dr. Emma Wilson, the Council's chief scientist, projected an image of captured Vordak ships being studied in massive hangars. "We've learned that the Vordak conquered hundreds of species by overwhelming them with technology, but they themselves were merely using technology developed by an even more advanced race they encountered centuries ago. They understood how to operate it, but not how it truly worked." Jack wasn't surprised. That explains their reaction when we started manipulating their systems. They couldn't believe we could understand something they themselves didn't fully comprehend. The Council's discussion turned to the future. Vordak prisoners had revealed that their empire spanned dozens of star systems. Many of the conquered species had been subjugated for generations, their knowledge of fundamental principles systematically erased to create dependency. "We've received transmissions from resistance movements on 3 Vordak-controlled worlds," Admiral Reynolds reported. "They're requesting our assistance. Specifically, they want us to teach them what we know about exploiting Vordak technology." Jack considered this. "We should help them, but not just by giving them tools or weapons. We need to teach them what humans never forgot: the importance of understanding fundamentals." As the meeting concluded, a messenger rushed in with urgent news. "Sir, our deep space monitoring station has detected multiple warp signatures approaching the solar system. They're not Vordak." The council chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. Admiral Reynolds reviewed the data with a grim expression. "It appears to be a diplomatic envoy from something called the Galactic Council. According to the Vordak prisoners, this is the governing body that oversees most spacefaring civilizations. They're likely coming to investigate how a primitive species defeated an advanced empire." Jack fingered the worn handle of his screwdriver thoughtfully. "Then we'll show them exactly how we did it, with understanding, ingenuity, and these basic tools." As the Council prepared for humanity's first official contact with the broader galactic community, Jack couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity was about to take its place among the stars not because of advanced weapons or superior numbers, but because of something as simple as a basic toolkit and the knowledge to use it. The Galactic Council's diplomatic vessel dwarfed even the largest human ships as it entered Earth orbit. Ornate and gleaming, it represented technology far beyond even what the Vordak possessed. Yet Jack found himself studying its design with a mechanic's eye, identifying principles of propulsion and structural integrity that, while advanced, still followed universal engineering concepts. Jack had been selected as part of Earth's diplomatic team due to his role in the Vordak defeat. He brought his toolkit, now something of a symbol, as he boarded the shuttle bound for the Council ship. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was a marvel of engineering and art. Representatives from dozens of species occupied tiered seating around a central platform where the Earth delegation now stood. High Counselor Alara, a tall ethereal being with translucent skin, addressed them. "Humans of Earth," her voice resonated through the chamber, "you have accomplished something unprecedented. A pre-warp civilization defeating an established interstellar empire is troubling. Ambassador Chen, leading Earth's delegation, stepped forward. We mean no trouble to peaceful civilizations, High Counselor. We defended ourselves against unprovoked aggression. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. A reptilian counselor named Traz spoke harshly. The methods used by humans violate our technological sovereignty laws. They hacked Vordak systems, modified their technology without authorization. Jack couldn't remain silent. With respect, Counselor, we used our understanding of universal principles to defend our world. We didn't hack anything. We simply applied knowledge. High Counselor Alara studied Jack with interest. You are the one they call the mechanic, are you not? The one who started this toolkit revolution? I'm just a mechanic who understands how things work, Jack replied, holding up his toolkit. These are the tools that helped save our world. A wave of laughter rippled through the chamber. An avian counselor chirped dismissively. Primitive implements, how could they possibly affect modern technology? Jack smiled. May I demonstrate? After a moment's hesitation, Alara nodded. Jack approached a nearby control panel, similar to those he'd seen on Vordak ships but more elegant in design. With permission, he removed the access panel using his screwdriver. Your technology, like all technology, follows principles, Jack explained as he examined the components within. Electricity flows, pressure builds, heat transfers. The tools themselves aren't special. It's the understanding behind them that matters. Using his multimeter, Jack traced circuits within the Ryu panel. Many advanced civilizations become so dependent on automation that they lose touch with fundamentals. They know that something works, but not why it works. With a few careful adjustments using his basic tools, Jack activated a holographic display, showing the ship's internal schematics, something that should have required high-level access codes. The council chamber fell silent. This is how we defeated the Vordak, Jack continued. Not with superior weapons or technology, but with understanding. Every system, no matter how advanced, follows principles. Anyone who truly understands those principles can work with the system, or against it if necessary. High Counselor Alara recovered from her shock. This demonstration is concerning. If humans can so easily manipulate advanced technology with primitive tools, then perhaps technology has advanced too quickly among some civilizations, Ambassador Chen suggested. Perhaps understanding has been sacrificed for convenience. Jack returned the control panel to its original state and closed it. Humanity doesn't want conflict. We want to join the galactic community as equals. But we won't surrender our unique approach to technology. Our insistence on understanding the why, not just the how. The council deliberated for hours after the human presentation. When they reconvened, High Counselor Alara announced their decision. The Galactic Council recognizes Earth as a sovereign world with protected status. The Vordak incursion has been deemed illegal, and reparations will be paid. She paused, then continued more solemnly. Furthermore, the Council acknowledges that the human approach to technology, this insistence on fundamental understanding, may offer valuable insights to our own civilizations. In the following months, exchange programs were established. Alien engineers came to Earth to learn human approaches to problem solving, while human technicians traveled to the stars to study advanced technology. Jack found himself teaching classes, attended by beings from across the galaxy, all eager to learn the philosophy behind the basic toolkit. The ultimate vindication came a year later, when the Galactic Council established the Human Principles Initiative, a galaxy-wide program to reintroduce fundamental understanding of technology to civilizations that had lost touch with it. Jack remained just a mechanic at heart. On the day the first interstellar ship built entirely by human hands prepared for its maiden voyage, he stood in the engine room, making final adjustments with the same basic toolkit he'd carried since before the invasion. Captain Lisa, formerly the software engineer who had helped take control of the Vordak ship, found him there. Still using that old toolkit, Jack? We could get you something more advanced now. Jack smiled as he tightened one final connection. There's nothing more advanced than understanding, Lisa. The Vordak had all the gadgets in the galaxy, but they forgot that technology is just a tool. It's knowledge that truly matters. As humanity took its first steps into the galactic community, they carried with them not just advanced technology salvaged from the Vordak, but something far more valuable: the philosophy that there was always more than meets the eye to a basic toolkit in the hands of someone who truly understood how to use it. The end.